This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Busy time in the world of professional bass fishing. We have a lot of things that are winding down, actually kind of coming up. I guess the last major tournament that we have is a Toyota Series championship that takes place on Grand Lake, and then a couple MLF team series that we have. But other than that, the Bassmaster Team Series Championship will give one last spot to the Bassmaster Classic champion, and then one more Bassmaster Open EQ to decide the 10 anglers who are moving on to the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series season. But we're kind of getting to that time of the year where we're seeing how the 2026 season is going to take place, how it's going to form, new rules and regulations. It's been really interesting to watch kind of from inside the industry, and then also as an angler who fishes a lot of tournaments. There's been changes every off season, regardless of what you fish, kind of moving forward as anglers and organizations and sponsor companies all try to kind of navigate with the technology and social media, both on and off the water. There's just a lot of stuff happening right now. I felt like, when I kind of got into this game full time in that 2007 time frame, there was like kind of a decade there, that 7 through 14 or 15, where it seemed like everything was really stable. You had the FLW tour that was kind of there for a decade. You had the Elite Series. You'd had a number of different of the top levels. That Elite Series came in 06. That was kind of a really stable time period. And then, kind of from the pandemic on, we've seen that, the technology come in, a lot of moving and shifting. So I think it's really cool that we operate in a sport, an activity, a passion where you can actually talk to the guys, the people, the committees who are making the decisions. The bigger it is and the harder it is to get. You say, well, why the hell did they do that? Or why didn't they do this? And one of the cool things with BTL is we have access to those guys to kind of answer those questions, to look forward, to give reasons. Hey, it's America. There's a lot of people who have fought and died for this country to have an opinion on whether they agree or disagree. It is your right to do that. But what I like to do is present the facts, ask the questions, and then you can make your decisions on that. We had that with Chase Anderson with Bass last month when he came on about Bassmaster's decision, whether you agreed with it, whether you didn't, you kind of knew where they stood. And today we're going to talk to the man from Major League Fishing, Boyd Duckett. If you have been following the MLF press releases, there are changes and additions and rules and payouts and structure and field sizes at the BFL, the Toyota, the formerly Invitational, now back to pro circuit level, and the BPT level. So as if he probably hasn't spent enough time talking about it, we're going to kill we're 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to kill 5 birds with one stone today, Boyd. Thanks for jumping on BTL.
That is a really good shot with a slingshot, Matt.
It is an incredibly good shot. Is that a fair assessment? Like, you've been in this game for a long time also as an angler, as an industry person, as an owner, pretty much everything. Would you say that the last 5 years have moved more rapidly and there's been more change in the sport than in the previous 20 years combined?
I gotta agree with you. I heard you open there, and I was thinking out loud while you were talking about that. And yeah, we did have, tournament fishing was very stable for a long time. We didn't have technology that was game changing, with the exception of mapping. I felt like that was, in my career, one of the biggest changes that I've seen, maybe even more so than forward facing sonar. But But yeah, we were stable for a long time, and then forward-facing sonar, because of what it is and what it does, is just been a tremendous change that we certainly feel like had to be managed. I guess everybody now is on page, some way, whatever they decide, a way to manage it. So yeah, we're in a world of change now. We went from stability to change.
We got a lot to talk about because there are a lot of changes that don't have to do with the forward-facing sonar. But I think the best way to handle this is to talk about the change right up at the beginning, not in a debate fashion, but more so in just a factual. And then kind of having that as a baseline, we can move on to the changes with the other ones. So MLF, I kind of look at the three leagues, and it seems like Bass is kind of like that. I always call the NPFL the one with 9 lives. Like they keep the cat with 9 lives, keep landing on their feet. And then MLF, which took a lot of heat for it at the beginning, and some still give it heat, but I have come to believe that it's actually an asset to the organization, is you guys have not been afraid to try things, to mold, to change, to put things out there, see how it works, and either saying, hey, we're going to keep doing this, or we're going to change it. And that's kind of seems like it's kind of been your stance on the forward-facing sonar for the last number of years, is really trying to see if, how, when, where, and why it fits into the game. And I would say originally at the professional level, but as we're about to get into here now, at all levels of tournament fishing.
Absolutely. So, forward-facing sonar, which is a very powerful technology, as we can see now, the technology allows an angler to have the opportunity to do things. Basically, here's maybe the quickest way to break it down. Kevin Van Dam spent 75% of his casts in his career were not to a bass. 100% of Drew Gill's casts are to a bass.
And a big one, too.
And they had a big one a lot. So statistically, it just can't compete. Okay. So for me, and that's what the technology did. And it's wonderful. Hey, it provides great experience for anglers, and it's a new technique that's fun and exciting. I think it's brought a lot of young anglers that find that part of it intriguing, that might not have they might not have become tournament fishermen if they just had to flip and throw a crankbait, right? So, but so I don't like to say it's forward-facing sonar that is a problem. It is a technique that is so dominant that it creates single-dimensional angling. That's the real problem. That's the disruptor. It isn't that it isn't cool and that you can't catch a lot of bass. We catch record, weight on it, but it is single-dimensional angling. So that's the problem. It's not forward-facing sonar. It's the effectiveness of it. So let me just say, if we created a crankbait technology and that was kind of the only way you could win most bass tournaments, then you would be forced to crank 100% of the time to be competitive. And guys would not, a number of guys would not participate or punch in a big weight if that's the only way you could win everywhere in the country because some big weight technology came out, right? Mm-hmm. So that's really the problem. It's not the forward-facing sonar. It's that we have a single dimensional angling, and that is losing participants. As a league, organizer, or as a professional fishing league, all of us combined, and all anglers that enjoy tournament fishing, it's critical for us as tournament anglers. You can't have two sides. You can't have forward-facing events, non-forward-facing events, because our sport is barely pays good enough already, right? We need, even if it's a weekend tournament on Grand Lake, you need that whole 100 boats, right, to have a good tournament and a decent payout. You can't have half of them fish one and half fish another. We're not going to make it as tournament anglers splitting up. So that only leaves the choice of finding out how to incorporate forward-facing sonar or this particular technique. That's really what it is. It's no different than restricting an Alabama rig as a specific technique or any other up and coming lure or technology. So I believe that we shouldn't, as tournament organizations, have the authority or try to pretend to restrict the creation of technology, baits, techniques. That's an industry thing. But I think our job is to take on these new technologies and these new baits and these new styles and offerings and find a way to incorporate them into the competition in a fair way. And so these results and what we'll talk about is that's our opinion of how we think it fits in a fair way. We welcome new technology. This is only the beginning. There's likely more coming. And so it will always be our job to control technology incorporated into the sport in a fair manner, to respect all the various techniques and ways that guys can catch it, so that we have full tournament fields, so that we have good payouts, so that all anglers have a fair chance of using their technique to win a bass tournament.
Is it fair to say that the technology changes and rules are a result? You mentioned full fields participation. Do you believe that these changes would be taking place if there were full fields at all levels, if there were 250 boat BFLs in all the divisions and 300 boat Toyotas in all the divisions, and a waiting list for the pro circuit? Or I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like it maybe was a little bit driven by the analysis of participation over the past 4 years.
No doubt.
Okay.
No doubt that is it. And not just at our league. I see it at all levels. You know, I live at Lake Gunnersville. We have as many tournaments, probably more than anybody on the planet. And you could put up a poster on a boat ramp, on a phone pole at a boat ramp, and get 75 boats. Now it's 19. Okay. And that's driven by the fact that we have a technique that's governed, and it's not that guys necessarily, yes, there are guys that are way better at the use of forward facing sonar, and it doesn't matter who they are, but a lot of it is the fact that guys don't want to just do that. It's like I said, I don't want to just throw a crankbait the rest of my life. I like cranking, but not the rest of my life. Okay. I want some diversity. And that is the problem. Okay.
Before we get into it, then, these decisions, how are these made? Was there a committee? Are these anglers who are making these decisions? Is this just based on feedback? Is just you deciding, hey, this is what I've heard, this is what I'm going to go with? The rules and the changes that we're talking about, what was kind of the structure, as much as you're willing to go into it, kind of behind the closed doors, as when you put the pad and the pen down and said, all right, this is what we're rolling with?
Yeah, so I guess the beginning of it would be the result of participation and anglers. I mean, several of our leagues, BFL Toyota Series, we have co-anglers. That might have been the very early, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, guys that were co-anglers, which we believe is very important to bring into the sport. We're one of the few places you can not own a boat and be able to tournament fish and qualify for a $100,000 tournament, the All-American, and some really cool stuff. So we believe that those guys might have been the first ones to ring the bell. Then we had a lot of other anglers, and you could see them clearly divide. And we don't live in the shell of Major League Fishing, right? A lot of what you hear me talk about is well beyond Major League Fishing. It includes bass and NPFL and ABAs and WAN bass, and it's tournament fishing as a whole. And we try to look at that, and we do our best to try to say, is this good or bad for tournament fishing? Because that's who we are, that's what we promote, and that's what we want to try to make better. So then that would go into our management team. I mean, this something I'm very close to. I've lived through it all, and obviously as an angler can fully understand the effect it has on an angler. Then the next steps to get the executive team together, identify that we have a problem and we need to make changes. That was tough, right? Because the last thing we want to do is have to make changes, So we try to find a reason not to, but this one could not be left alone. Then the next step is to get the experience. And one of the things that we have in our organization, after acquisition of FLW and all the tournament directors, BFL and Toyota Series and all of that, these guys, I don't know how many hundreds of years of experience we have, but it's a lot. So then that's my next step is get all these tournament directors on, and that's where you start hashing out, what if we do this? Well, and they're wonderful. And I interact with those guys a lot, and they have full authority to argue any point they want to. And I respect them so much for that. So we get in there and we fight about, if we do this, is this going to help people? It's going to hurt people, increase participation, decrease participation, what is good for the sport? So that's our process. And then what you see for these changes are a result of that process.
All right. So there's the forward-facing sonar chat. So what I was thinking was we'll just start at the base level, the one that's been around for 40 plus years. They used to give out spittoons that I'm very sad I'll never have an opportunity. I mean, I always like going to the guys' houses where they're like, see that spittoon? Won that on a Carolina rig and a man's jelly worm back in '83.
Heck yeah.
But we'll start with the BFLs, then we'll go to the Toyotas, then we'll go to the Invitationals, which there's a name change there. It's returning back to the pro circuit. Then we'll go to the BPT, and then maybe a couple bonus questions on the team series.
Okay.
So let's start out with the BFL. Press release came out on earlier this month, I believe. Yeah, October 9th. And it seems like a little bit of a return of some familiar formats and paybacks to what the BFLs were for the past 15 years before some of these tweaks started a couple years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we're trying to do is to keep our co-anglers involved through the process of talking with, and this is where our BFL tournament directors, they talk to a lot of the guys in their division. They have great relationships with a tremendous number of those anglers. So that's our feedback process coming from the largest grassroots organization there is in the BFLs. And I know that the regionals, what we did for a long time with regionals to kind of make it fair, if you pulled together, I don't know, Choo Choo, Bama, LBL, and in the Middle Tennessee or whatever, then we, to not let anybody have a home field advantage, we'd go to Wisconsin, for instance, for your regional. That's a financial stress that it probably is more fair, but a lot of the guys, hey man, it's a week that you're gone, travel to Wisconsin. So we've moved those back. We have consolidated those regionals and made it so that it'll be in your area. Everybody will be semi-local. No doubt somebody's going to have a home field advantage, but we can't fix that, right, if you're going to fish local. So that was one of the changes, going to a 3-fish limit for the co-anglers. Should make it a lot easier because we still have forward-facing sonar. Those guys, a third of their day is tougher, right? Not that you can't catch one out there, but it is tougher on those co-anglers. So we feel like that was a better way to keep them in the game and more exciting and a lot of weights close like it should be. And then the reduction in entry fees, that's a big deal. Everything in the world has gone up. We went backwards. We went back to the old traditional 200 for a boater, 100 for a co-angler. And the idea behind that is we want everybody fishing. We want everybody to come out. And if cost is a factor, those local regionals dropping the entry fees, increasing the payout at the ramp, and some of the things that we've done our very best to make it the best thing you can do at that weekend level. You still qualify for great regionals. You still qualify for $100,000 first place All-American televised pro. I mean, it's the best weekend program there is. I don't think anybody argues that. So.
Back to $200 for boaters and $100 for co-anglers, I believe. And I think at one point, didn't it get up to $375 over the last couple of years or something?
It
Like,
didn't since we bought them. I think it did back when it was
Okay.
FLW towards the end, and they were trying to find a way because the BFLs were losing money to operate.
I gotcha.
And honestly, my philosophy is we can operate fine if everybody comes and fishes. You make this thing really good, and everybody comes and fishes, we'll be fine.
Okay.
So that's the point. That's what it's about.
So you mentioned the 3-hour period. Let's dive into that. Can I read what it says in here? And we first heard about this in the pro circuit release, but as of the press release here, it says all BFL events will include restricted use of forward facing and 360-degree sonar technology limited for 3 hours of continuous use per day, maintaining a fair and balanced playing field for all anglers while emphasizing skill and strategy. Now, I'm a fisherman, you're a fisherman, you know how this stuff works. The rules came out for this BFL like this, and I could show you 50 texts, and I was responding to it too, going, oh, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that's right.
Walk me through how this is going to work, Boyd.
Sure. So here's how we landed there. 2 years ago, when we believed that we had to find a way to manage forward-facing sonar, we went to one period at the Bass Pro Tour. We started at that level because that's the level everybody sees and watches, and that's a good test area. It has turned out that the fans and the anglers have accepted that, right? That seems to be, not saying we hit it, maybe we accidentally hit it right, but the world accepts that it's pretty fair only using that technology 1/3 of the day, right? One period at Bass Pro Tour. So that's basically what has driven the time frame. You're roughly 1/3 of the day seems to be a really fair way where that technique will only win sometimes and not all the time. Okay. And that's what we're headed for. So that's the purpose and the change, how we landed on 3 hours. We did that. Obviously, we want to run consecutively to mimic what we believe will become the new pro standard eventually. So we don't want that to be any differently. And then we have the great fortune in BFLs and Toyota Series in that we have co-anglers. So since the beginning of time, that has been our strongest process of being able to govern both the boater and the co-angler. They're mixed, as you're well aware of. You fish plenty of them, and you don't know the guy, and it's each other's job to govern it. Now, we have a lot of people say, well, what if the guy doesn't, what if they get together and they agree or whatever?
That could say the same thing about bed fishing or whatnot.
We got 2 pages of rules, okay, that we have always governed like this.
Yep.
So if they aren't good, or any tournament you fish, guys, you have rules and there is a process to govern. So this is one more added in. But with co-anglers, I promise you, when that 3 hour mark's up, you're not going to have to remind them. They're going to be ready to go fishing in a different format by then.
So let me say this. So I'm in a BFL. I draw you. I say, did you bring the ice? Here's your ham sandwich. Keep your stuff in here, back there. We get out there. We're fishing during the day. It's 8:30. I get to a section of the lake that I know those fish start chasing bait at 9 a.m. So I tell my co-angler, and up to that point, my forward-facing sonar unit is not on. I'm not using it. I tell my co-angler, it's 9 a.m. I would like to begin my period of forward-facing sonar usage. It is now up to both of you to govern that, whether that's with a cell phone alarm, a boat alarm, a kitchen timer, however you want to do it. 3 hours consecutive use. At 12 o'clock, that unit goes off. If I start fishing at 9, use it for 10 minutes and decide I want to run 70 miles up lake, that is included in my time. So I have it from 9 to 12 if I want to go in a quiet cove and listen to classical music, or if I want to scope out in the middle of the lake that whole time. I get it 3 hours, just like on the BPT. And then you're hoping 99.99% of the time, boom, that timer goes off. You turn your unit off. Your co-angler notices that your unit is turned off, or if it's not, your guy says, hey, you got to turn that thing off in 3 minutes. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I remember it. And then you turn it off.
Yes, that is exactly right. And so it's 3 consecutive hours, just like BPT. I think it would be a bigger advantage for that technique if you allowed it to get split up. And the intention is not. The intention is to control that technique so it is fair. So we believe running it consecutively is what we should do. Hey, look, it works. It has really changed the Bass Pro Tour. As you've seen this past season, it has changed. Not that guys don't catch them on it, but they're not winning bass tournaments because of it, and they won't at the BFLs or the Toyota Series or Pro Circuit.
Now, there's all sorts of, I'm sure you'll come out with more and in-depth rules on this, but I have been in draw tournaments where a co-angler shows up with a mobile live scope unit, and a cooler opens up the lid and scopes off the back. It actually was awesome. We both caught the hell out of it. Will that be allowed at that level too? And say, like, if a co-angler shows up with a mobile live scope unit and the boater has a mobile live scope unit, could they then one use it from 9 to 12 and one use it from 12 to 3? Or will that have to be coordinated to where there's only one forward facing unit on at that boat for 3 hours during the course of a day?
That's correct. One forward facing unit will be on for 1 3-hour consecutive period.
Gotcha. Now you did say 3 numbers in there that caught my attention. And there's also caught the attention of a number of different anglers, and that's 360 degree sonar. That is the Humminbird 360. Talk about the decision to include that in the, it's not forward facing, it's forward facing and 360 sonar technology in the technology rules for this year. I mean, that's been around. I remember Keith Combs kicked everybody's ass in the TTBC. He made like $750,000 on Lake Conroe, chartreuse powder blueback 6XD cranking brush piles that no one else could see. And I'm doing the media, and he's like, yeah, I'll leave that part out. Like, you know, when I'm good on that for another year or two. And that's been a part of the game for so long. So this is the first time we've seen 360 included in that technology limitations.
Yeah. So last year we fished that, and Bass Pro Tour, the 360 has always been included. The reason we did is we feel like the separation in the technology is the difference between looking straight down below your boat like we have since 1967 and looking forward. And 360 does in fact look forward, and realize that right now you're only thinking of active target and the Garmin, and you're thinking of what exists in 360 Humminbird, but realize that we're trying to build rules that will work with all else that is coming, and there is more coming, like probably 360 degree real time. And so we set the separation is looking straight down and looking forward. So that's a clean break.
Okay.
As new technologies come up.
Last question about the technology, then we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll dive into the Toyotas, the Pro Circuits, and the BPTs. What is MLF's stance on technology in the future of the sport? Is this a fluid situation where you may see it go away? Will it always be a part of it? Will it be on a year-by-year basis?
Yeah, I think that what this has forced us to do, and like I say, I try my very best to think holistically in tournament fishing as if I ran Bassmaster and WAN Bass and ABA and Texas Team Trails and Major League Fishing, okay? Because we believe we shouldn't do something that isn't best for the sport. So we believe, I believe it should be one, do our very best. All of us should do the same thing, whatever that is, to have consistency in our sport. So we do our very best to recognize that. This forward-facing sonar has forced us to recognize technology maybe more so than we have in the past. We have a lot coming on right now. We have AI coming into play that's probably going to become part of bass fishing. It's already part of things we're working on. And then forward facing, and then what about 360 forward facing? And then what about visual forward facing cameras that have the ability to give you a line of sight view? That technology is growing. And there's a lot coming. Okay. So probably no different than NASCAR from the 60s forward. They had that every year where technology allowed race cars to go so fast they'd fly off the track. And they recognize that year over year, they have to look at the technology improvements and make decisions as to what to govern. I think we've reached that point in our sport where it's going to happen at a point to where year by year, we will manage these things.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a little bit of a background in music. It's interesting. I've been reading some articles of songwriters, of musicians who are pretty nervous about, what the future brings as far as their skill level, as far as you could plug some stuff in. And now all of a sudden, you've been a songwriter trying to find what people want for 40 years. And now here's something that tells you exactly what it took you 40 years to figure out.
Yeah, that part is scary. And
it's not just fishing. I think it's every aspect of our lives. We just happen that fishing is our passion for it.
That's exactly right, and we got to figure out how to manage that on the fishing side. I played with that. I still do some songwriting, and have obviously a lot of buddies still in music business, and it is crazy. You kind of have to know how to ask AI, and you have to learn how to use the AI programs effectively. But you can write some awesome songs now with AI, and you don't have to be as good a songwriter as you used to be. So crazy.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take our first break, our only break of the show. When we come back, we'll dive into some of the changes, additions, and things for the other three circuits. It is BTL on a Monday, chatting with Boyd Duckett from Major League Fishing. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Baccarac. Feel the rush.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
I fish in some of the worst elements across the country. Spring. That's a giant, dude. Summer. Oh my gosh. Hi. Look at that thing. Winter. It's so cold. And fall. Got a big one. That's awesome. Being comfortable and staying dry is the only option. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarac and Lake El Salto, Mexico's two best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live. All right, welcome back. It is BTL on a Monday, chatting with Boyd Duckett from MLF. We kind of use the BFLs to get through a lot of the stuff that applies to the next couple. So the Toyotas, the Invitationals, when it comes to the technology, same 3-hour time period, consecutive during the day, using your co-angler, or I would assume at the invitation or that the pro circuit level, your camera, to validate that you were following those rules, correct? Boyd Duckett?
So a little bit different. So a Toyota series would operate just like BFLs.
Okay.
We have co-anglers in every boat, which is a good opportunity. And I want to say that, and I also want to say, as we develop technology, because the same way technology has created a problem for us, technology is also helping solve our problem. Okay, so as you're going to see a lot of changes.
Yeah.
We ran the Vosker cameras you saw last year in the pro circuit or invitationals at that time, and so we're working with the folks at Vosker. That camera is becoming more and more affordable. I can see where other tournament organizers, one of the things we haven't talked about and probably won't today is catch, weigh, and release. But that's probably even a bigger topic than forward-facing sonar. And so we're having to manage that also simultaneously. So with that coming, we believe that some of these technologies are needed. So back to Toyota series, that's how that'll be handled. Jumping forward to Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the changes. Yes, we went back to the Pro Circuit name. We at one point felt like the anglers would appreciate just running 6 invitationals, let it being a qualifying, a qualifying league basically for Bass Pro Tour. That the anglers said no. we want a Pro Tour. We want a championship. We want $100,000 first place. We want to pay full entry fees and get good payouts. So that has been reconstructed, and the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit actually now is the highest paying circuit per event out there, except Bass Pro Tour. So minus Bass Pro Tour, it's the highest paying circuit there is. So we feel like we have accomplished that and work close with those anglers to develop that.
$100,000 guaranteed first place winner for all 6 of that. Lowered the entry fees to $5,000 tournament from $5,500 in 2025. 7 direct bursts to Red Crest 2027. A 50 angler, guaranteed 50 anglers into the championship, regardless of field size, and top 5 anglers advance to the 2027 Bass Pro Tour, and then also a $50,000 Fishing Clash Angler of the Year award. Which I always feel like the Angler of the Year award, it's been back and forth based on where you are and what you fish, but I always feel like sometimes they get kind of gypped out of it. I mean, that if within the industry, that's one of the hardest to win. So the $50,000 for the Angler of the Year kind of sets you up for the following year. Boyd, this was surprising to me. So from looking at it, the optics of it was the invitationals were searching for their position in, this is me talking, this isn't, I believe it looked like they were searching for their position in it. Like, what was their purpose? Like you said, was it a qualifying? What was the difference between them and the Toyotas? Is it a farm system for the BPT? How do we do it with the entry fees? We've got where does it fit in the ecosystem of MLF? And then also in the ecosystem of professional fishing as a whole too. Like, is it equal to the Opens, where the Toyotas had been the Opens, but now with the invitationals? I feel like with this revamp, it's kind of a statement by MLF saying, okay, we listened to our anglers, and the pro circuit is kind of here to stay for a while.
It is. It's our elite series. We have a lot of media behind it. It's live streamed. We've upgraded our television coverage. We're on CBS
Daily.
Sports, got a great program. So, I mean, it's our elite series to put it in place where our Toyotas would be, comparable to the Opens. And so that's where that is. And the Bass Pro Tour, which all of this is starting to come together for you. It's been a dream for a long time to have an elevated field that is special and different from anything that's been out there. We kind of had a taste of that when we had the majors with bass back in the day, with that 50-man field and good payouts and tremendous media for us. I know I fished those the couple of years they existed. That was awesome. So, the Bass Pro Tour living at that 50-man field and having all of this media that we provide, not just Bass Pro Tour, but Team Series, heavy hitters, Red Crest, and all those items is something that's never existed. I mean, it's a new highest level. I don't know how to refer to that, but that was the intention, and that's our desire to accomplish that. So I do want to say we didn't finish on the Tackle Warehouse Pro circuit. We don't have co-anglers. We have the lockout boxes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also want to say this because I'm not sure that eventually this won't be the answer for all of tournament fishing. So, and we'd like it to be. So here's what we're developing, and it is developed. I last week saw the prototype there with our IT team back in Benton, furiously working on this product. But what we have is a lockout box. You saw the lockout box on Bass Pro Tour last year, as well as the Invitationals. But now this box, when you open this box has a timer built in it. Okay. Well, just think about this.
It's literally Pandora's box.
Yeah. So what'll happen is you will leave with it closed. You'll pick your 3-hour period. Say it's 9 to 12. You said that earlier. So at 9 o'clock, you'll open this box and it will start a timer. If it's not closed back at 12, you'll pay a pound a minute penalty. So we've got you no matter what. And you can't cheat the box. It shows us how many times it's been open, and we have that technology.
And it's all Bluetooth connected to the sky, connected to a home base, so you can see green light next to each one.
Yeah, you got it. So we know now, all 150 guys, whether or not they did it. If that technology works as good as we expect it to this year, I would say that's probably the future for all other tournament trails to control it.
So that would be a thing like when you sign up for your BFL, they give you a box at registration, depending on what transducer you have or what the approved transducer, and then boom.
You got it.
Let me ask you this. I didn't know about this. So for 3 hours, can you use 360 and forward facing, or do you have to choose between the two?
You can use anything you want for 3 hours.
And it does not matter how many transducers either.
21 of them.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do for 3 hours.
I'm curious on this because if you go to the dark corners of the internet, they will have you believe that every decision that is made at the professional level, regardless of what tour is being run, is made by men in suits at technology companies that say, if you don't do this, I don't give you this. What was the feedback and kind of working with? I mean, technology companies have a ton of money. You look at how big a Garmin is, how big a Lowrance is. They can make or break an organization depending on what they are willing to do or not do. But here you see both tournament organizations not saying, hey, yeah, no, our hands are tied. We're seeing decisions being made. I'm curious with your standard, if there was any conversations where you're like, hey, you could have guys with $75,000 worth of electronics on their rig now. Like, was that a kind of an olive branch with the technology companies in this decision?
No, I will say this in full transparency. Here's the process. I opened by talking about all the reason why we did it, what we did internally. I also had meetings with those companies to tell them what I told you at the beginning, and to tell them that our sport couldn't survive with one single, and it's not about their product, it's about single dimensional angling. I got to fall back to that. That is the problem. It's not forward facing, it's single dimensional angling. Everybody doesn't want to do the same thing. So finding a way to incorporate their lure, their technology, their mapping, or the next whatever has to fit into competitive fishing so that it's fair for everybody. So we had those meetings with the Garmins and Lowrances of the world. Yeah, you got it. And that was probably the best thing we could have done, because we don't want to not support those companies. We need them to support us. They have a lot of product that needs to be sold, but we can't let it change tournament fishing, or it won't be good for any of us, them either, right? So so I think we were all able to get together by understanding and identifying the problem, and we are all working together. We have full support of those companies. And we're still hot. Hey, look, you may not only get it for 3 hours a day, but it ought to be pretty clear how good the product is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So if you're a Drew Gill, you say, "Hi, I'm Drew Gill. I'm here to pick up my pay a little box thing. I have 3 transducers and a 360 on my boat. So they need your 360 lock, the 3 transducer locks, and puts them on. The timer freaking good to go, green light. He goes out and fish. Whenever he decides it's time to cast, catch, count, and mount, pops all 3 of them off. They're all individual. Boom, they read it. And then if there is a malfunction or something, you've got the live camera in the boat that records it to where he's saying, hey, I had this thing on, or I didn't take it, or it came off. And you can say, okay, pull the chip, look at it, say you're good to go, move on. And that's using technology to your benefit, but also to kind of control it.
That's right.
I like it. How is the transition to 50 anglers on the BPT going? We touched on it a little bit there, but I mean, this is something that's several years in the making. It is now, I mean, in 2026, there'll be 50 guys that launch and take off and make that first cast. Is this is kind of unknown territory, like you mentioned a little bit with the majors, more so like an E50. In my opinion, in the back there, but it'll be fun to watch and see how the 50 go.
It will be, of course. You know, we talked over the last couple of years several times about the purpose in it. We've made cuts, so we have landed on what we are certain, and I don't know that anyone would argue this. We have the toughest field that's ever existed in bass fishing by multiples. Okay. I mean, you got 50 guys that are the 50 guys, you know, and not that there aren't great anglers everywhere. Don't misunderstand me, but there's never been a tougher place to be. And it also allows us now, one, when we make changes and augment payout, like for instance, starting in 26, we've added 260,000 in payouts. If you happen to do the math, you'll see it's up. And as we are able to do more for the anglers, it goes a lot farther with 50. So that's one of your big advantages. The ability to cover these guys. 40 would be better than 50. Okay. 30 would be better than 50. But we settled at 50 to make enough room. I mean, I'm just telling you, if you're going to build household names and stars, you cannot cover 100 guys. You just can't. But we can do a lot better job, and probably a really good job with 50 guys. And we have a lot of plans to do that. So as we expand what we do in social media, what we do with our fast channel and what we do with special segments. Now we have all this new media that I'm not going to derail this conversation, but we have a lot of new stuff coming that we need. We want to highlight those top 50 anglers every place we can. And so that's the bigger push. And theoretically, Matt, because bass fishing never has and never will be entry fees and payouts. Okay. That's get by money. Mm-hmm. It has to be from the individual angler's media platform. That's where the money, you look at all the anglers that have 7-digit incomes. It's not from entry fees and payouts, or
hell, you lost your Bassmaster Classic check, Boyd.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how that fits, but you're right.
No, that's because you're making your living. You're not making that. The whole point is you're not making your living based on what you get from that tournament. You're augmenting it with it, and you're using whatever platform you choose to build your business with multiple revenue streams. So you're relying on the strongest platform that is available, and then any cash that comes in through the pay to play and the check that comes in is bonus. It's not something that you have to rely on in a sport with the most uncontrollable variables in any professional sport in the world, to where you're not surviving on a year-to-year basis. You're using that as additional, not your sole. That's where I was going with that point, boy.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And I believe that is our future.
Like you did with business, like Dean has done with that, like you've seen Jacob Wheeler do with that. You look at all of the top guys in the sport, regardless of what their platform is, they are not dependent on cashing checks. Now, cashing the checks is what built them, but it wasn't the checks that they cash. It was the finishes and then what came along with that. All that other stuff should be bonus that supplements it or augments it, not creates the financial stability.
I agree with that. And honestly, for what the entry fees and payouts do is they provide more opportunity for the lower finishers, not the higher finishers. So a guy that's struggling and he comes up and gets him a real nice 8th place finish, can afford to stay in it.
To build that, to maybe get that win that introduces him to another sponsor, that introduces him to someone else that's in the industry, that keeps him going on that track, to be able to build that platform from the ground up to where, it kept that check kept him going there, but it's not the only reason why he's there. That's where I was going with that. I wasn't just taking a shot at you for that. That is the best story. That was one of the best stories in professional fishing history, though, boy.
Hey, the worst part is I was so embarrassed. It lasted longer than it should have because I didn't have the courage to call Trip Weldon and ask him what to do because I lost a damn check for $500,000. Okay,
and then you found it 6 months later in a suitcase?
Yeah, I finally did find it. It not in a suitcase. The classic was always great about all the swag you got, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was in some of those bags of swag and not in my suitcase. And I put them somewhere. Usually don't get to that stuff for months later or whatever. And
one of the things I want to highlight is the schedule for the Bass Pro Tour. I would assume when this 2026 schedule was put in place, you knew at the time of those negotiations that it would be a 50 angler field.
Yes.
Your ability to move on non-traditional but highly productive bass fisheries, I think, is going to be exceptionally unique. You guys we saw that for the first time when you guys went to the Carolinas, those lakes out there where it was like, oh my God, they're all 6-pounders, but you couldn't put a 200 boat field on that. Now you've got everybody, you got 50 boats on the water, you're doing cuts, but I'm seeing places like Whitney and Waco and Ivy and Brownwood and Orange Lake. And I mean, even to some extent, like I'm interested to see how Beaver Lake fishes with just those fewer on it. Does this open up the 50 boat field open up? I mean, are you in negotiations with lakes that I've never heard of and most of the people have never heard of across the country and non-traditional parts of the country as well, moving forward into 27 and 28 and 29 with kind of the ability to move now?
Yeah, no doubt. There of course is a fine line between those host cities at the lakes, because host city fees matter a ton to us. It helps offset the operational expenses. I mean, revenue is revenue in your company, right? So, if anything good we're going to do for the anglers has to come from profit money. So we don't want to give up host fees. At the same time, we definitely, and it's talked about a lot, want to take advantage of what you just talked about. We can go to fisheries with 50 boats that we traditionally never did with 100 boat fields or 150 boat fields, through the years. So there's some cool stuff there. It's just blending that with a host and figuring out a way to live with it.
Overall, Boyd, on a scale of 1 to 10, give me a number. And we're not just talking MLF. I want to talk entire industry. Throw the boat industry in there, everything. Professional bass fishing, tournament bass fishing. I want you to give me a number at where it's at right now. There's three 1 to 10s here. First question, 1 to 10. Where is it right now, overall health meter wise? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being never been healthier, 1 being life support.
So healthy from an angler perspective, or from a whole perspective, from growing, from sponsorships, from anglers being able to make livings, from organizations being healthy. Just a snapshot. I think it's probably a 5.
Okay.
It's not as good as I've seen it. And for all three, entities. So that would be sponsors, anglers, and organizers. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of fragmentation. There's too much of it for the revenue. At the end of the day, and we've talked about this before, if you look at us and you want to compare us to a sport, any other sport, bull riding, PGA, whatever, NASCAR, audience is what drives the money that grows the sport. All sports, okay? All sports. You do have some endemic money, okay, that matters, especially on our side, but you can't grow a sport on that. Okay, now when you start talking about buying live stream and TV time and cameras and better coverage, and the money exceeds endemic income, and it always has, and it's even worse moving forward. So audience is a big issue for us, and I've kind of always believed in that. That goes back to the beginning of Major League Fishing and trying to find a way to offer it with every fish counts and it being more exciting. And we were able to move the needle, and we did see live stream numbers greater than we've ever had, and television ratings numbers greater than we've ever had, because it was exciting. But it still is a long way from the PGA in audience. So I think collectively we have to continue to try to find new ways to make people want to watch our product, because the guys aren't all going to make 7-digit incomes if you don't have an audience to offer the Anheuser-Busch's and General Tires and Bridgestones and Chevrolets and the non-endemics that only buy audience. They buy eyes. It's impressions.
10 being the most talented, 1 being, they're not that good anymore. The talent level in professional bass fishing right now, just talk on the MLF side. 10, never been better. 1, not as good as it used to be.
I think the level, and I want to say this correctly, I think the level is probably a 10. I think anglers are better than they ever have been, but I want to defend those anglers in the past to say that they didn't have the technology that we have today to offer that. But there's no doubt it's more competitive than it ever has been in my lifetime. And I started traveling in 1977, fishing the Jerry Ryan's Fisherman's Bass Circuit. So it's been a lot of change, but definitely a 10.
You look at a guy like Bank Shaw and what he did when he ran through the invitationals or the pro circuit this year. And it's like, holy cow, that's one day with, one day without, that they were doing it. And you also hear people say, oh, that would never happen without forward facing sonar. I would like to remind people that not too far in the distant past was a word known as Hanselmania, where Ray Hanselman, without the aid of anything looking forward, won every single Costa tournament and the championship in a single year and just smoked everybody. And if that had happened like with one of those young anglers today too, they would have been like, oh, there's zero chance that would have happened. That's live scope right there. I mean, it was done in a non-scope era, but it is impressive and amazing to me when you look at like the Drew Gills and things like that, and then the Bank Shaws, and then you start diving into like the Nut Brothers and all the stuff that's going on back there. How many crazy good young anglers are in the system right now, and a lot of those we saw a lot of those at the right in your backyard. Literally, you walk out of the backyard of that Ultimate Angler at Gunnersville there. I mean, they did it without scope too in that tournament, and I am very optimistic for the next 20 years to cover these guys who are a product of the system that MLF created, that FLW started with the high school and the college, that MLF has continued with the focus on the youth and the college, that Bass has done with it, that Wade Middleton and Collegiate Bass has done with it, that the high school programs. I think you got a lot of really good young anglers right now, not just at the BPT.
No doubt. I think one of the big changes that I've seen is the serious young. We've always had young anglers, right? We all grew up fishing, but we didn't take it serious till we started tournament fishing. And so now it seems like these young anglers in junior high school, because the high school, you got high school fishing, and then I know here in Alabama you have junior high school fishing as well. So even at 13 and 14 years old now, they are focusing on tournament angling and competing, and not just fishing and having a good time. So anglers are starting younger than ever, which helps them be really good by 23. Okay. Then the biggest change is information. Okay. So I said, I was 17 in 1977. I had Bassmaster magazine to read about. I had Field and Stream still to read something. And I fished local tournaments on Lake Wiley where I grew up. And if you ask somebody how they catch them, how they caught them, they'd say in the mouth. And that's all the information you could ever get. So we had to learn everything by doing it. And maybe you made good enough friends with somebody that they would share with you a crankbait that you weren't familiar with, or show you how to tie a Carolina rig if you hadn't seen it. You just don't know how much that's changed. Now at 13 years old, my son Eli can go on, he can take his phone and watch videos on how to tie anything, how to fish anything, and watch videos of pros doing it all day. All day, it's been 10 hours if he chooses, watching someone learn forward-facing sonar, which, by the way, is a terribly difficult technique to learn correctly. Okay. I mean, it's intricate. Okay. And you can watch 10 hours of YouTube videos from top guys showing you how to do that. That's the change. So you're a veteran now at 25.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, 8 to 10 years of experience. Last 1 to 10. How scale of 1 to 10? How much do you enjoy turning off your phone these days, getting on the water, and going fishing?
A 12. A 12 out of top 10. I am going to fish the pro circuit next year, but mostly just to participate. I'm not trying to be a professional angler anymore. I'm dedicated to try to make it better best I can. Don't know if I will or I won't. It's somebody else's opinion, but I very much enjoy working to try to make it better for others. But I still love to go. So 6 times I get to go do it and be part of it. And that's probably more enjoyable now than it ever has been.
Anything else that you think wasn't covered in this kind of synopsis of kind of the whole MLF brand moving into the new year?
We didn't really talk about catch, weigh, release. We touched on it, but I might throw in a piece. It would almost take its own segment, but I will say that I really believe we are also learning a lot with all these new people on the water, and the states have sort of taken it on their own to look at post weigh-in mortality issues, and we're discovering that it's much greater than we all thought it was or could have been. And I think you're going to see a lot of pressure. No, I don't think, I'm absolutely certain you're going to see a lot of pressure to force catch, weigh, and release. So that's another big item burning, back in our executive teams and tournament groups and all these meetings that we have is how to manage that. We announced at ICAST, we rebuilt Score Tracker for that purpose, to make it available to everyone starting February and March of next year. Anybody wants to, through the Bubba scale, partnership with Bubba, where you can tie in and catch, weigh, release. But I do want to say to the audience, you guys need to start thinking about that and accepting that, because that's coming. And you're going to see tournament organizations go to catch, weigh, release only. Of course, now we get back to enforcement, saying no different than forward facing. So, but I will say again, we have technology helping us with that.
Little asterisks on that. I had Dave Washburn on for an entire show of that. I also had one of the gentlemen for Bubba who helped design that technology on. There's a whole hour and a half show. You can Google that if you want to go back and watch that. But that kind of dives into that was right after ICAST there. I'm telling you, Joe, you got a couple guys that work for you there at MLF, with Joe Pogger and then Jody White. Those guys are good, man. Like,
yes, they are.
Like Joe on top of it, make sure all that stuff is important. Great asset to the company. And then also Jody White, probably the most knowledgeable, like in a dying breed of quote journalists, writers, people who understand it. Man, Jody knows his stuff and does a hell of a job at the pro circuit level in the Toyotas. So that's just my piece on that.
And he loves it too, and that's what.
Oh, he's good. Special. He's scary good.
He's scary good, man. He's a great angler, so he has full understanding. Yeah, awesome. We have a lot of people within the organization that are there. Really, most that are there because they want to be there. Okay, they want to be there, and it's like your show, Matt. You have a lot of ways you can make a living, and you enjoy doing what you do with BTL, and if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't be good at it, right?
We stick around after. I'd be interested in some of those other ideas that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of a one-trick pony here, Boyd.
Yeah, I got you.
But no, anything else before I let you go? I know I had you for an hour. You're busy. I've had you for an hour and 5 minutes now.
I think that covers the reason we're doing what we're doing. I appreciate you thinking about us. And if you ever have a question, reach out. All
right. Sounds good. Boyd Duckett. MLF, you can get on their website, all the press releases, everything that kind of goes through it, but kind of put into perspective some of those changes. Boy, this is the most haphazard page of notes that I have ever had in my life. I've got like tech committee. How do you decide? Young anglers. What was the deal? Oh, single dimensional angling, SDA. I had an acronym down there that we turned that into SDA. We have to think about SDA when we're making these decisions.
Yep.
All sorts of stuff. So thanks, Boyd.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
All right. Good to see you too. All right. That is Boyd Duckett. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, talk about what else we have going on this week. It is BTL on a Monday. And we'll be back right after this.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water anchors. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Break Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Break Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
As a professional angler, there's only one thing that connects you to your paycheck. Probably the most crucial part to tournament bass fishing. I use Sunline because they have a line for every application. Shooter, FX2, All Might, super light line, big stuff, big sticks. Sunline has you covered.
Sharp as can be. Super strong, super durable.
Really good penetration.
Thinner and stronger.
Catch fish after fish.
I want to make sure that I'm using the best stuff possible.
World's finest hook.
World's finest hook.
Gamakatsu. World's finest hook.
Hey guys, Brian Schmidt here with Spro. I'm going to talk to you about the confidence I have in the equipment I use. I have a charter boat business back home in Maryland. We fish for saltwater fish, and I also fish the Bassmasters Elite Series. So I keep my lights on by fishing. I have to have a lot of confidence in the equipment I use. Spro has me covered from head to toe, saltwater, freshwater, everything in between. A lot of high-end quality product. Spro has you covered.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. unrelenting power delivery, unparalleled weight savings, keeping you on the water whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
In 2023, we became a household.
All right. Well, I usually don't mess up the commercials, but I managed to mess the commercials up there. That was a very enlightening interview. Appreciate the time that Boyd Duckett took from his studio there at Lake Gunnersville to talk about all things. A lot of changes, a lot of moving pieces going on at all divisions of MLF. And, back when Jeffries was here and we were doing the show every day, we did a feature on the All-American, which is basically the Super Bowl for the BFL anglers. You do the BFLs and you go to the regionals and you go to the All-Americans. And we're talking Stephen Brownings and Shaw Grigsby's, Jeremy Lloyd, like just a ton of guys who have really solidified their careers through really cutting their teeth at that BFL level. And quite frankly, I mean, the BFL level hasn't been healthy in a lot of divisions for a number of years. And whether you like MLF over Bass or Bass over MLF or whatever, I don't think you can argue the fact that when it comes to cutting your teeth at kind of the serious competitive angling level, investing your time, your energy, and most importantly, your money in it, the health of that BFL level is critical. That along with the Bass Nation, but with the entry fees, with the contingency programs, and with all that, like a lot of, being in the industry, a lot of the products that are being developed are for those type of anglers, not only serious recreational anglers or opens or Toyotas or all that, but you're talking the $100,000 bass boats and the $30 spools of line and stuff. Though, like a big major group of that are the BFL anglers, the serious grassroots guys who work their ass off during the week, who are talented, who have fished fisheries for decades, to have the upper hand to say that they're making an investment. They're not just paying to play to say that they were part of it. They're doing this because there's so much good local talent that has and hopefully will continue and will once again fish that BFL level. I think it's just critical to the health of the sport to have a big, vibrant kind of BFL. And it's been around, like I said, back for the Redman All-American days and the Operation, I think it was called Operation Bad, a bunch of stuff before that. The BFLs have been around for a long time, but yeah, interesting his take on it. He's right. You could do a whole show on the catch and release, the catch weigh release, or the benefits of bringing them in 6 one way, half dozen the other. I'll say the same thing I said when we do other industry shows. For-profit organizations that are trying to do what is best for them so they can maintain health in the industry. There's a lot of people whose lives depend on every professional bass fishing organization and their health. And it's better for all of us when all of the organizations are healthy. You want a strong platform. If you're an angler, for your sponsors, if you're for your sponsors, for your distribution and for the people that are watching, if you're for the fans, it's for the best product that's out there so you can enjoy watching it. You want the strongest platforms at the highest levels. So that's all we got for today. This has been another edition of BTL. If you like what you're listening to, what you're watching, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and head over to the iTunes. Leave a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star review as we head into the 2026 season. These things help when it comes to securing sponsorship, so we can bring more free Bass Talk lives to you. Check out BassZone.com or BassTalkLive.com. Kind of have the schedule up for the next weeks. This is actually a recorded show. I'm on my honeymoon right now. Like I said, currently. So I'm not exactly sure what the next 3 or 4 days as far as we've got some stuff in the can as far as recording, but live shows return live on November 3rd, as long as everything goes smoothly. So we'll talk to everyone later. See ya.